what we're going to do, we're going to have a little bit of a look at Asafa Powell. I believe this was in 2010, 2011 Diamond League meet. Run it through in full time so you can have a look here. 2010. So super impressive run, super quick. He's run a few of these races in the past, particularly in Rieti, Italy. Had some wind-aided world records that obviously weren't able to stand, running into the 972s, 974s. And what we're just going to do, it's hard to see from the side view, but we're going to break down some of the work that he does from the front, how he actually achieves this time. And hopefully I'll put together a series of races to see the evolution of his technique. So I've looked from the front, and we're talking about one of the greatest accelerators of all time. He ran indoors in 2016. He ran some low 6.4s, but in the actual 100-meter sprint outdoors, he just explodes out of the block. So we'll play this again, real time, to have a look at what you see. This run kind of reminds me of in 2008 in Stockholm. We'll go for that run as well in another video, but just the rotation that this guy's getting and the power that he has at this stage. Like, he looks a lot heavier than what he had been in the past. He coming in 2008 when he broke the world record, around 2006, 2005, 2006. But we'll have a look at here just how this first couple of movements go. All right. So you get this big drive. What I like about this is that he almost creates space. Yeah, look here. Like, from this portion here, from when he's set up, hands move first, the thighs driving. As this thigh, the right side, comes through, we just see this external rotation at the hip here, giving him space to drive this into an internal direction. So both legs are going the same way, and people always say, oh, why is it going in, and why is it going in here? Well, it's going internal here to create this massive potential and this stretch. You see this hip is risen high, like he's stretching this glute, stretching all these muscles. Then you'll see that it basically will come in this direction, and then as he drives, it's going to come out. Okay, so it's a balance of the internal external rotation. You can assess someone's hip as well by how well they actually rotate. So you can see already he's extended off the block, he's in the air, and this leg's already driving out. And look at this. You can see that length there now, and how tight he is, and he's using these arms in such a strong position, as opposed to the guy to the left here, who also was a 10-0 runner. So they're all using their own unique strategies, but they just leave little clues. So he's pushing out now, strikes the ground, strong through the ground, and then bang, that movement there. Through that heel, pushes, he's driving to the inside edge of his foot here. So a lot of pressure on the inside. He's pushing, and because he's getting so much power and the size and the arm swing, he's utilizing the whole line. Like, I think if you've got a kid or an athlete who's extremely powerful, you don't want to get them running in a narrow channel. You want them to be utilizing this part of the string. As long as from the side they're efficient, and what I mean by that is shin discipline, the ability to actually keep the shin tight and driving back underneath the hip. Allow them to use the lane. Look at this, he's coming all the way over the cross. So we see, let's put a marker. So he's got a lot of weight on this left side. We'll put it on So he said, and we'll see where that goes to as he contacts the next step. It's completely moved head's length across. And he's what that strategy is, and people say, oh, I want them to be straight, I want them to be straight, do this, this, and this. We're creating pressure, creating a huge amount of pressure and potential to utilize that on this step, on initial contact. And that pressure is then going to get released into the next step. And then he's going to drive across again to the other side. And you'll see that as he goes through his steps, I believe we're up to the fourth or third step here, this will narrow out. So initially it's really, really wide, using the rotation to bring it in, and then it narrows down as he comes through. Another thing to note probably is how much rotation he's getting. Like, it's even expressed through the arm action here, coming out by the side, this rolling up, like torsion, basically all the way up from his foot. So you're going to be externally rotated here. He's going to be internal here at the hip meeting. And then this is hiked. This is tight, and this is long. And that's just creating all these areas of stretch, compression, and expansion throughout his whole system that goes into one step, which you then see basically uncoil. People talk about coiling core, spinal engine. You're seeing it. Like, you cannot tell me that this arm's not staying in a straight carriage line here. This arm's staying, like we're seeing external rotation here. We're going to see sort of an internal rotation come through as he swings this arm across the body. And this arm is going to return back out the side here. And I think what Asafa is doing really nicely with his arms, that not a lot of people would look at, is he's creating like some tension there in the upper sort of delta, like in through the armpit in the lat. That's helping drive and pierce that arm. So he's not losing any tension. Like, you can see the guy on the left here. When you see someone flap their arm, like, people talk about they're creating a longer lever to work with the force, but as soon as you let this elbow go and flap out, if the shoulder's not in the right position, it's not strong enough, you're going to lose tension. It just releases tension straight away. As you can see, this is creating so much more of a stretch, and you want to talk about fascial slings, but everything is connected, and keeping this tight is not allowing any release. So you can definitely see the undulation and oscillation of the hips. We're watching in real time as he's building. Patience is another thing that Asafa does really well. And then you'll see as he comes up, nice and tall, hips square, and he's just getting an enormous amount out of the ground. Like, phenomenal amount. He gets a little bit of a bend, externally rotated as he goes through mid-stance and hits toe off, and he's up in the air. And you can see how now that's quite narrow. He does still get that bob left and right. You can see the head going to the left to, again, still create pressure, but it's just nowhere near as significant as it was at the start of the race. And people say he's almost like high stepping, and I don't know what the emphasis that Asafa and his coach was working on at this stage, but basically he still goes through his stroke. He doesn't cut the stroke short. People say, oh, he's doing heaps of front side mechanics, like, he's not trying to push out the back, but he's getting an enormous amount of pop from basically here to there. He gets through that hip, and he's got a complete stretch from that knee to knee coming through. That's allowing him to go down the track. If he was to cut that short, he ain't traveling anywhere. So he's emphasizing the front side, but he gets on the ground and he goes through that full cycle as quickly as possible. And I think it's something that when we're coaching junior athletes and we're teaching like more of a technical model, they may not have the strength and power or the speed of movement to hit the ground, absorb the force, and use that force appropriately and well timed to get a really efficient backside mechanic action. They need the time. So where Asafa toes off here, we see it's kind of off stream, off um, the frames there, and a weaker, less efficient athlete might need to actually have the leg come all the way at the back and extend out here. If thigh doesn't go as high, it might drop down here to get the push. That is their timing. What I think I noticed about this is how much potential Asafa's putting into the ground. And what I mean by that is how big a frontside action he's using and his ability to actually handle that. So you can see here, even people say, oh, you need to stay really, really tall. He's come down slightly bent knee. He's landed in a position here. And it rolls through that position and then he pops. So that's a strategy he's using to actually get into the ground and out of the ground and utilising as much as he can for that track. And we look at Saidi and Duri, a Norway sprinter, again a 10-0 guy. He's doing a bit of both. Like if we watch from this frame, he's getting a nice vector. People say he's spending too long on the ground, but that vector, if this leg was to be at the back and this come up more on that angle, and this come back to here for him, he can't produce the force quickly enough and get himself to travel across the track where he'll just be going up and down the spot. So you might see his air time go out of sync with the contact time. So you see he comes in slightly bent, a little bit straighter than Asafa, bends into it, and then gets a big push out and hangs. But he's getting back. If his timing is on point, he's getting back what he puts in the track, whereas Asafa is getting back what he does and is managing it so much faster. So there's some interesting points here. Start a bit of discussion.